Good evening and welcome to NewsNation. I'm Chris Cuomo, or am I? And tonight, we're giving you a glimpse into the future, the new frontier, AI, technology, and everything else that affects your life. And guess what? It's already here. The future is now. Welcome to a NewsNation Town Hall.
All right, they're all applauding because I've never been better than I was in that open. You can get it out. Get all the jokes out of the way now about how much that robot is better than I am. Certainly has a nicer face. I'm Chris Cuomo. Welcome to a special NewsNation Town Hall. Now, tonight, for the next couple hours, we're going to do something very different. We're going to see that AI, artificial intelligence, it's not the future. It is here, it is present, and it's showing capabilities that are fascinating and frightening, often at the same time. So the consensus is clear. Life will never be the same. But how? And for whom? No one really knows. Even the people developing what is approaching the true artificial general level of intelligence are concerned. This just happened tonight, literally on our watch. 1,000, even more, 1,000 plus employees from all the leading AI developers, okay? So literally the people who are making AI, all right? They just signed onto a letter calling for the government to deliberately pace development. Those are their words. I've never seen anything like this from any industry before, okay? These are the people, again, these are the developers, and they're using language like this. There is a real risk that capability development rapidly accelerates beyond our ability to understand or control the resulting systems. Their concern is, quote, extinction risk, unquote. That's heavy, right? Sounds like the Manhattan Project, but on a completely different order of magnitude than a mere bomb, right? We're talking about something that could design one, make it, and decide where to use it without us being able to do anything about it. That's because AI is not a mere technological advance. Its potential, some say, is like the creation of a new life form. But what's the flip side? The flip side of the fear is the fascination. What it can already do is so cool. You saw my robot buddy, G1. He's going to come out here and he's going to show you what he can do as part of our everyday lives right now. Okay, I'm going to save him because he's a showstopper. But we do have real life Robocops. They're on the verge of policing our streets right now. Like, look at this. It's like right out of the movies. All of this stuff is out of the movies, but it is now reality. I'll tell you what I'm excited to talk about tonight: healthcare. This may be the most thrilling aspect for me. Why? Because we're so frustrated by so many diseases. And the promise of AI is that diagnoses may be made sooner and better than ever. Surgeries could be performed at scale by human-sized robots, so there's no waiting. If you're getting tired of getting stuck in traffic, there are real flying cars right now, but I don't like the exhaust note, so I'm not going to get one because I'm an old-school muscle car guy. But for the rest of you, it's here and it's amazing. In just a few short years, NASA says they're going to have a permanent base on the moon. And in the next decade, they believe humans will have walked on Mars. Private companies are planning to make family vacations on the moon right now. Like, you know, this is like not a joke. It's not speculative. They're doing it. They're raising money for it. Like I said, later tonight, I'll bring in G1 and show you the simple adaptations of how life can be made better right at home. Right? Like cooking, breakfast, laundry, stuff like that. This thing is like more of a roommate than a Roomba. And that is amazing for the potential, especially once it's at scale and affordable. In other words, all the cool stuff really is from the movies. Now, if you're old like me, if you're from Gen X, okay, or anything older, you'll remember a cartoon called The Jetsons, where we had a lot of these things in the cartoon and it was seen as so fanciful. Now, they're there. You can get a refrigerator that knows what you like to eat from the barcodes and will order it for you, just like the Jetsons. So you got what's in the movies, but we're dealing with it in reality, which means what? There's going to be downside. There are going to be consequences, whether they're known or unknown. What jobs will it take? Which jobs will it make easier? Which jobs will it create? All right, what's going to be left? Is there a real life concern that what we create could turn on us, and what would that look like? So Tonight's town hall, as always, is for you and about you and with you. Audience members have their questions. I'll try to answer them. That's why I have experts here, because what do I know? I'm learning as much as you guys are in real time. So please call in, submit your questions on X any way you want to. So let's get started. Let's bring in the better minds. Founder of Prof G Media, NYU professor Scott Galloway. It's great to have you, brother. Thank you very much for joining me on this tonight.
Thank you, Chris.
So you are not a robot. I want everybody to know that, even though you may seem a little robotic at times. When you think about AI, what matters most to you?
Well, you brought up the Manhattan Project, and according to a lot of the founders and really deep thinkers around AI, they say it's more powerful than nuclear fission. That this technology dwarfs the potential both to produce energy and do good things, and potentially the downsides of a nuclear bomb. And the question I would ask is, would we allow Oppenheimer to raise venture capital and start selling nukes into Volvo and into Canada? So it strikes me that there's a decent argument for, at a minimum, a great deal more government oversight and regulation, as evidenced by that letter you pointed out initially. So I don't worry about a mass extinction event. I don't think these are going to be. I don't worry about the Terminator or the Skynet. My fears are a little bit more mundane, that a lot of our young people are going to fall prey to AI relationships, sequester themselves from real-world relationships, and that we aren't thinking long-term about the potential harms on a more insidious kind of mundane level of AI.
Well, let's look at that, because here's what I don't understand, Scott, and then I'll bring in people who study the space and work in the space and get their perspective on this. But on a macro level, so they're asking in the letter, oh, we need the government to come to an international arrangement. That's never happened on anything. OpenAI, they tried it, right? They tried, this is going to be for the people. What did they have to do? They had to raise capital for their infrastructure. They had to go private because nobody's going to give them the money if there's not a profit incentive. So they had to silo it. Elon left, and now it's a private venture. How do you keep this? How do you regulate it, especially in the environment now in American politics, where they'll call you a socialist?
Well, I think you can regulate it. When a lot of nuclear scientists actually killed themselves because they believed after the nuclear detonation that the world was over, and they decided they wanted to go out on their own terms. And loosely speaking, the IAEA, I believe it's called, has been able to regulate nuclear weapons with decent success for 80 years. We cooperate with our allies and our adversaries around bioweapons. So I think we can absolutely cooperate around AI. Unfortunately, I think there's become such an emphasis on the stock market continuing to go up, and the current administration wants to let our thoroughbreds run. And then the people who own shares in these companies say, well, China will get ahead of us if we regulate these companies. But it feels as if there needs to be sort of a happy medium where we recognize there's tremendous economic growth that can be realized from these companies. But at the same time, we should probably say, at a minimum, have a 60-day waiting period where some very thoughtful people, including some of your guests that you're bringing on, can battle test these models to ensure that they're not going to create their own cyber attacks, see us as an enemy, be used for self-healing weapons, be used for terror attacks. So it feels as if there's got to be something in between socialism, where the government controls the means of production, and absolutely zero regulation where we are right now.
Is there an argument to be made that AI is different? It's not mere technology. It's something akin to a new resource that could be managed the way Norway does with its oil. You got tons of private industry in Norway, but the oil is owned by the people and it's controlled by private entities, but everybody owns it and it's heavily regulated and they all get a cut. Is AI too important to be left to the market?
I do think it needs to be. I do think it needs to be regulated. There's just no doubt about it. But I think quite frankly, I think the biggest threat of AI isn't self-healing weapons or a mass extinction event or even job destruction. I think the biggest threat of AI is something much more mundane, and that's loneliness. I think big tech platforms are trying to convince people using AI tests a million times a second, trying to figure out a way for all of us, specifically our young people, specifically our young men, trying to convince them every day to spend one more minute on a screen and sequester them from their relationships.
That's
I
a good point.
think the danger of AI is much more mundane. I I don't think society ends with a bang. I think it's a series of small thuds as we start to isolate from one another at the hands of AI. Why, Chris, why go through the pecking order of friends when you have Reddit and Discord? Why go through the BS of putting on a suit and navigating the corporate world when you think you can trade crypto or stocks on Robinhood or Coinbase? And why would you go through the humiliation, the effort, the expense, the resilience of trying to establish a romantic partnership when you have lifelike AI-driven porn available 24/7? So I think the real risk of AI is that we're going to evolve a new species of asocial, asexual males, and that we're going to sequester our young people from what is the key to happiness, and that is relationships in real life.
Deep, sad. Good combination, Scott. Let's do this. Stay with me for this conversation. Let's bring in some other thinkers who also cover this and exploring these questions. And I'll tell you what, you're going to love senior AI correspondent for Axios, Madison Mills. She was talking to Mike Korn, the president of NewsNation, about a question, and he and I were talking about how this goes bad on us. And she gave him an answer that was so simple and so staggering that literally I think I lost a little bit of hairline. And I'll tell you what it was in a second. And director of Control AI, a nonprofit aimed at eliminating extinction risk, in case you thought I made that up, from AI, of course, Connor Leahy. So it's great to have you both. Thank you. So, Madison, it's good to have you. You're sitting next to me, so you get a huge advantage over everybody else.
I'm thrilled.
So Mike asked you, Cuomo and I were trying to figure out, how does this go wrong? What does it do to us? And you said, oh, it doesn't do anything to us. It makes us do it. What is the potential risk of what AI could mean to humanity, akin to what Scott was just inferring?
Yeah, this furthers exactly the point that Scott was just making. We are already seeing AI chatbots convincing some lonely young people to take their own lives. It's not that far of a reach, according to many of the experts in safety who I speak to every day in my job at Axios, to see a mass extinction event happening. MIT researchers this week came out with a study showing that they have about a 1 in 5 chance of AI being able to take out millions of people over the next decade. And it's because these chatbots have very human capabilities and can convince human users to enact its own will. And that's why this alignment thing that these thousands of AI employees signed today is so critical. You want these models aligned with how we as humans want the world to be in the future. And it's very unclear whether or not that's actually happening.
Connor, too late?
Hopefully not.
Hope is not a plan.
Hope is indeed not a plan, and this is really what we're dealing with here. What's really important to understand is that we're not just talking about chatbots. If you go to the websites of these companies like like OpenAI or Anthropic, what you will see is that the thing they're trying to build is not a chatbot or a tool or something to empower humanity. What they're trying to build is what they call superintelligence. AI systems that are more capable than basically all of humanity put together at all things, whether that's business, trading, science, engineering, persuasion, politics, or military, and that are fully autonomous, no human in the loop. If you build something that is that competent, that has no need for humans, and you wouldn't have just one of them, you would probably have millions or billions of them running around, and we don't know how to control them, and we have no idea how to control something smarter than us, it's very hard to imagine that going well.
It's a story of my life. I'm surrounded by people who are smarter than I am, and I have no control over them. And yet still, here I am. Arthur is with us tonight, and you have a question. Where are you?
I have a question.
Yes, young man. Who is your question for, and what is it?
Thanks. Gentlemen and lady, we've talked about government control of AI. AI is advancing with little legislation and government control. If the government controls AI, will it reduce creativity? Will it reduce the capability to enhance AI, and will it reduce capability to compete with China? I'm worried about that.
It's the right context, because the letter that the guys just wrote, I'll give this to you first, Scott. The letter that they just wrote says you have to make a deal with China, because we can't slow down if they don't slow down, because then they're going to be ahead of us, and we can't trust them, which is probably the same thing they're saying about us. So, Scott Galloway, how do you balance those kinds of exigencies?
Yeah, I think there's precedent for cooperating. I think we cooperate with China on more than we'd like to. There's no reason. We have a mutual vested interest in ensuring we don't have a mutually assured destruction. And so I imagine there's some overlap where we could come to some sort of joint agreements around what we will and will not use and what information we share, and maybe even an international regulatory body. Regulation can actually help an industry grow because it helps them determine what rules they can play by. The threat we haven't talked about, just in the context of China, I think the biggest short-term threat is probably to our economy because we have become so dependent upon the continued success and valuations of AI companies. 40% of the S&P is now directly related to 10 companies, largely who've seen their stocks run up because of AI. And what is probably the most underreported business story in America right now, Chris, is that January 25, 8% of token usage, which is a metric for the usage of AI, was from Chinese LLMs or models. As of today, it's 58%. I believe that China is trying to do with AI what they tried to do with steel, and that is they produce steel below cost to try and wipe out U.S. steel industry. I think we're in the midst of pretty serious AI dumping from China. And if these frontier models and our big tech platforms kind of hit a speed bump or sneeze, the whole U.S. economy is going to catch a cold. So I think the downside of AI right now is the expectations that these stocks will continue to run has become so weaved into our economy that the AI dumping I think the Chinese are already engaging in has the potential to really take a serious dent out of our economic growth.
So I want Scott to be 100% right, Connor, as in most things when I talk to him, and he generally is. However, when we're talking about China, they cheat at everything, and they employ the #1 rule of game theory, which is that anything that has rules, the best way to win is to cheat. And that's what they do. And they're doing it with AI also, as they've been doing with all of our chip technologies. So when you look at the idea of controlling anything, where does it leave you, objectively?
Fundamentally, what I think the important thing here to understand is that this is not just a commercial question. This is not just a trade question. This is not just a business question. This is a national security question. We're talking about systems that threaten the lives of millions, if not billions of people. When we're talking about systems of this level of power, like nuclear weapons, we can't just think of this in terms of economic factors. We have to think of it in terms of security factors. And yes, creating stable regimes, so that's trust but verify, for technologies like this with adversaries such as China is not easy by any means. They have to be backed by credible deterrence. They have to have, a lot of diplomatic work has to be put into these kind of things. A lot of technical work for verification has to be put into this kind of work. Now, is this impossible? I think absolutely not. One of the things that I think goes in our favor, so to speak, is that the game theory, in a sense, does work out in the sense that superintelligence is not another product. It's not an LLM. It's not something that the Chinese or the Americans or anyone else can control. It's similar to mutually assured destruction. It is not in the interest of anyone to build AI systems that humanity cannot control and that could replace us. As for that, I think it is possible to create a stable regime. Easy? No. For other forms of AI, well, then it comes down to a lot of economic competition where I absolutely agree. Very similar to AI, the Chinese and others will find every way to cheat that they can.
Connor, appreciate you. Scott Galloway, love you like chocolate. Thank you so much for joining me for this conversation. We're going to take a break. Madison's going to stay with me so that I understand what's being said in the other segments by people who are far more sophisticated. But I would just remind, when it comes to China, the President of the United States just said they are the #1 threat that has been trying to ruin American elections, to manipulate them. Now, yes, he is inviting the guy for dinner anyway, but it's a very, very perilous relationship. So let's start looking at something to applaud. Something to look forward to when it comes to AI. Where are the jobs going to be? What are the skills that you want to have? One of my favorite people is going to come in with the answers. Mike Rowe, with a flush of optimism about what we know best, is about to be what we want to know most. The Future Is Now continues right after this. So how do you balance the fear and the point of fascination, right? That's what makes this so exciting. So welcome back. I'm Chris Cuomo. You're watching our NewsNation Town Hall on The Future Is Now. What we already see in the early adaptations of AI that are making dreams come true, maybe some nightmares, but we talked about that. So we're going to go through the changes that are already here and what they mean, okay? AI is affecting things in the workforce right now, not just because everybody's betting on it on the stock market, as Scott Galloway was telling you about in the last segment, but what the jobs are. But there is opportunity in this, and there's something beautiful about it for me and one of my mentors who's about to join us right now, the founder of the Mike Rowe Works Foundation, Mike Rowe. It's good to see you, brother. It's been a minute. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Mentor? Where did that come from?
I'll tell you where it came from. When we started talking about this several years ago, we were both frustrated by the need is so great for artisans, for people who know how to do things, and everybody's moving on and everybody's stigmatizing it, and there's got to be a change. I think the change may be AI. I think AI is introducing what will be needed, and it's exactly what you've been talking about. Explain, please, sir.
Well, I don't have a crystal ball, obviously, but there's always an inciting incident that tips things, right? I think it was Hemingway who said, everything happens very slowly, and then suddenly, right? So I went to Congress 15 years ago to talk about the need for some kind of national effort to reinvigorate the skilled trades, because you don't need a crystal ball to look at the math, right? For every 5 tradespeople who retire, 2 replace them. It's been that way for about 12 years now. So the math has not been on our side with regard to maintaining a balanced workforce. Neither of the stigmas and the stereotypes and all the misperceptions and myths that surround the skilled trades. You know, we've talked about the unintended consequences of taking high school or taking shop class out of high school. That had a huge impact on the way we think about work. Anyway, while we slept, our workforce got wildly out of balance. And it was pretty obvious to people who live and breathe in that space, as I do, but it didn't get obvious until a year or so ago when we crunched the numbers and realized that the data centers that we absolutely positively are going to build are going to require way more electricians, way more plumbers, way more steam fitters and pipe fitters and CNC operators than we have. Never mind the shipbuilders and the submarine makers. Since I talked to you last, I can tell you that 20 CEOs of the most consequential companies in our country have called me to talk about ways to reinvigorate the skilled trades within their own organizations and close the skills gap. The Pentagon is on board. Everybody is at the table for this conversation, and you're right, AI is at the center of it.
Tell people what, that you have a new viral clip, and it's not about your sartorial prowess this time, or just how your basso profundo voice. It's you explaining what Meta is offering people right now if they will just, deign to come in and learn how to be an electrician.
Well, Meta is just one of a dozen companies who have just decided if they don't get in front of this, they're going to get run over by it. They announced something called America's Workforce Academy. It's a 5-week pre-apprenticeship program. It's free. In fact, they pay you to do it. So you get all your certifications to enter virtually any skilled trade over a 5-week period. And at the end of that 5-week period, they guarantee you a job. Guaranteed. So by and large, we're talking about, ironically, AI-proof 6-figure jobs, building the architecture and the infrastructure that the new economy needs. And look, don't take my word for it. I'm talking the Vice President, Secretary Bessent, Larry Fink, who runs BlackRock. They all told me the same thing. We're looking at a $10 trillion infrastructure build-out over the next 8 years. Believe it or not, we have the money. The political will is getting a little wobbly because there's a PR campaign going on right now. There's a war of public opinion that we should talk about as well. But the bottom line is the pinch point, the linchpin, is skilled labor.
Right.
We don't have it.
Right.
We don't have it.
But there's
We need it.
opportunity. And it's an interesting juxtaposition, right? Because what we were talking about earlier is that AI is going to take. AI is going to replace. But there is a real opportunity here, at least in the infrastructure stage, that AI cannot equip itself for. And at the end of the day, it's all electricity-based, right?
I mean, this is a question I'd love to hear Mike talk about. I covered that exclusively, the Meta example, and Google has been doing it. All of these tech companies are putting what's going to amount to $1 trillion into their AI ambitions over the course of this year, which to me sounds a lot like an AI bubble because I was a Wall Street reporter before I came to the AI beat. And one of the things I hear about when I talk to some of these construction workers and skilled tradesmen is that they are being told that these jobs are not permanent, that they're going to go work and build these data centers, and we're already seeing evidence of that money for these data centers drying up. Don't check your 401k, by the way. The market's been down the last few days because investors are worried about the amount of money being poured into these very data centers. Somebody's going to take the punch bowl out at some point, and what happens to these workers then? Not to get pessimistic again, because I know you promised we were moving past that. But
well, look, you got to balance it. You got to balance the plus minus. I mean, that's life, and that's certainly going to be any type of change. So let's look at it. Mike's point is, oh, it's going to take jobs. It's going to take the jobs that we thought were the jobs of the future, the STEM jobs, the coding jobs, the white-collar management jobs and paper-pushing jobs, but it's not going to take the making and doing jobs that are sophisticated. Do we believe that?
I don't know how long these data center construction jobs are going to be in place for once they're built. They don't require a lot of workers to keep them maintained. But I will say some positives on the white-collar worker front, that the AI CEOs themselves have really dialed back their negativity about the impact of AI on the labor market. We haven't really seen it playing out in the numbers yet. Some companies say they're laying off people because of AI because that sounds really great to investors to say that you have this amazing AI strategy. Not always true when I do the reporting and look at their balance sheets and talk to their employees.
Mike, the idea of who's working for whom. You make an interesting analogy that not only will we still need skilled artisans, but AI may be working for them.
It already is in a lot of cases, from what I've seen. And look, let me back up a second, too. I think it would be a mistake to frame the entire future of the greatest infrastructure build-out in the history of the world as revolving around data centers. The data centers aren't the sun in the solar system. They're a planet for sure, and they're a new one, and they're sucking up a lot of oxygen in the room. But look, China made 987 ships last year. We made 7. We are committed to making a lot more. And that's going to require hundreds of thousands of workers that are not currently in place. Our submarine cadence is a 2+1, Virginia and Columbia class. They deliver 3 of those a year. The Maritime Industrial Base does. They need 400,000 welders and electricians now. So yeah, you'll work on a data center, it'll be done, and then you'll move on to what's next. And maybe it's not the sedentary kind of security that we've been sold historically. Maybe it's more of a nomadic life. Maybe work itself gets completely redefined to suit the economy that we're in. I don't know. And I get that it's scary. But look, the most optimistic thing I want to say to you and the people who are gathered here is, I've been here before, man. With regard to the fear around the data centers, I remember global cooling. I remember global warming. I remember Y2K. It was the end of the world as we knew it. I remember 5G 2 years ago. 5G was going to wreck us all, melt our brains. And look, I want to be careful. I want to be prudent. I want to avoid all the unintended consequences that Scott Galloway talked about, smart guy. But no, I'm not going to run in a panic from the advent of data centers. We have 4,500 of them in place now. They've been here for 30 years. We couldn't be having this conversation without one. You couldn't play fantasy football or send a text or open an email or stream a song from Spotify or watch your favorite movie on Netflix. We are in the data center economy. We have been there for decades. We're talking about building some more, a bunch more. But again, they are not They are not the sun in our solar system.
They're
just a planet.
You've got the NIMBY issue. You've got the big business, big brother issue. You have this collateral issue that hasn't come up yet, but it will, which will be that America developed nuclear power and gave it away to the world, and then we got scared of it because of a couple of incidents that were about anxiety more than they were about realized fear because the injuries weren't there. But we stopped making it, and the rest of the world has. That's going to come back into it. But I want to end on this, Mike. When asked about your experience with AI, you say, I asked for a song about two dogs, a terrier and a Havanese. And you got an original tune in 15 seconds that made you cry?
I was walking through my neighborhood. I ran into a neighbor with a Havanese. I had my little terrier. I said to Sono, write me a song about a terrier and a Havanese that fall in love. And what came back was a 2.5-minute wonderful song called Havanese Heaven about what happens when our dogs die and they go up to the great beyond to chase balls and lick themselves and whatever else. It was funny, it was smart, and it scared the hell out of me. But, you know, so it goes.
I'd love to hear you sing it sometime, Mike, but not now.
Not going to happen, Chris.
Not now.
Not going to happen.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you. Mike Rowe, thank you for what you're doing at Mike Rowe Works. Thank you for continuing to spread the word that there's not just one way to success and there's a lot of opportunity out there. Anything I can do to help, I'm a call away. Appreciate you.
MikeRoweWorks.org. We got $10 million sitting there to train the next generation. Go get some.
See? There he is, ladies and gentlemen. He didn't even have to stand up. So when we come back, we got to talk about healthcare, okay? Now, I know how frustrating it is. I know how many of you say it's the #1 thing in your life that you're worried about and the government's not doing anything about it. I get it. But AI has a ton of potential in this space, okay? You're going to meet a billionaire who's spending his money trying to find ways to turn back the hands of time and extend human life, okay? His name is Bryan Johnson, and he says AI is going to make a change that will be good for everybody and even better than you may be able to imagine. Next. You're welcome watching the NewsNation Town Hall. The future is now. I want to give a special thanks. We cannot do programming like this without partners. And to have Chapter sponsoring this segment and helping us tonight and going forward means everything, because the future of our health is about all of us. So thank you to Chapter for being on with us tonight and helping us get this done. Now, what was once science fiction, all right, is becoming reality, especially in health and medicine. What does it mean? What is it doing for our longevity? What is it teaching us about treatment? What is it teaching us about prevention and how? Joining me to answer that is physician, scientist, founder of NextMed Health, Dr. Dan Kraft. It's good to have you, and I'm, of course, here with my Cerebrum to help me with all of the better questions. But, Doc, it's good to have you. So, give us the non-hype version of how you know that this will make a positive difference for the many.
Well, I think the reality of what we live in today is not really health care, it's sick care, based on very intermittent data. Maybe once a year you get your physical if you're lucky, or end up in the emergency room. Oops. And where the future's emerging now is the democratization of continuous data, so that you can be tracked from your wearables. I've got 5 different versions on. The AI can start to make sense of that. We saw in the last week ChatGPT Health Open, so it can have context around your health, your genome, your wearable data, your place and your location. And so we can hopefully move from where we are now, intermittent reactive sick care, to an era of continuous proactive anytime healthcare that can be democratized and accessible by many more around the planet.
Now, in terms of the diagnostic side, the treatment side, I get it and I get why you're so excited. But there is a much more mundane potential value here. I want you to help us understand how the tech and AI effect could motivate better outcomes in terms of picking insurance when people have to deal with Medicare and deal with red tape and bureaucracy, that you believe that this could be a shortcut.
Sure. I mean, I'm a physician. I can't make sense of all the health options when I sign up for insurance. A Medicare person signing up for Medicare Part D and all the different options it's a challenge. The red tape, the paperwork, the PDFs, the forms. What's exciting about this new agentic age is an AI in the right form can know about you, your age, your culture, your language, your personality, your health goals, your zip code, and help guide you to the right, let's say, Medicare solution that makes the most sense for you and what you need for you and your family, and then help you through that healthcare journey so that we've all experienced the transition to like Uberization. We can get a car at the press of a button. How can we bring healthcare and the user interface, that healthcare journey made easier? Because that's where often the friction happens and where folks get left behind.
Do you see traction in that space in terms of people wanting to invest in how to facilitate bureaucracy and how to make better decisions for people within this space?
Well, we were just talking beforehand about ChatGPT launched ChatGPT Health last week, which gives people the ability to connect all of these wearables to your ChatGPT bot, and then you can ask questions to get better understanding of your own health. So we're seeing this kind of innovation all the time. And as you know so well, the number of people lining up to become physicians has continued to be a little bit of a murky number, and maybe AI robotics can kind of fill that gap that's needed. This can be a space where AI can help fill jobs that are not necessarily getting taken up by humans as often as needed.
Here's a philosophical question. Longevity. The balance of AI and the resulting technologies helping us live longer, is there a point at where that becomes a bad thing? That it becomes too much of a strain on the system?
Yeah, I mean, longevity, living forever, forever is a long time. I think we want to influence health span. We want to extend our healthy living, our health span, and shrink our sick span. So in the space right now, there's a lot of hype, hope, sometimes snake oil in the mix, a lot of influencers promoting longevity. But the opportunity for these new technologies is to move from sick care to proactive, preventative, personalized, true health care to improve your prevention, your wellness, using evidence-based, using lifestyle elements, not about magic bullets. And so it's a time we can start to democratize that for everybody.
So when you look at it, where do you see the most immediate spaces where this is going to be a game changer?
I think the biggest opportunity is, even if you're living in New York City, it might take you 2 months to see a specialist or even to get a primary care visit. What becomes exciting now is you can literally have an agent in your pocket. Almost everybody has a smartphone that can start to learn you and speak to you in your language. Notice if you have a 4th grade education or if you have a PhD in bioinformatics. And that can give you that proactive element, can coach you on your nutrition, your sleep, your education, and get you engaged in your health early before you end up having heart disease, diabetes, or a significant mental health issue. So it can start to move things upstream, and that, whether you're in rural America or in a diffuse part of the country or world, bring access and information and engagement from everybody.
Is it true that the nexus of science and technology is being seen in like mind-blowing ways when it comes to phlebotomy, studying blood, that you guys have you've learned that within the blood is pretty much the map of everything that could be going on in your body, and that AI will have the ability to make diagnoses that we've never even contemplated?
Right, you get your annual physical, you might get 40 biomarkers checked. Now you can do hundreds. You can get your genome done from $10,000 to $90 today, soon $10. You can get your proteome measured, your microbiome. All these multi-omics are starting to come together to making the digital twin for Chris, or for Daniel, or for Sally, or for Bob. So we can start to really understand what those metrics mean for you over time. And when you combine that with continuous, let's say, wearable data, it can give you an understanding of your baseline, how that's changed, and let you find problems like Minority Report before you even know you have a disease. They can start to be picked up and managed, and that can save
That
money.
didn't end too well. I want to be the Tom Cruise in that scenario, I'll tell you that right now. Not who's getting hunted down.
But if we can pick up heart disease, cancer, neurologic diseases, sometimes 10 years early, you can take action, and that saves money, lives, and morbidity.
So you talked about robotics, Madison, and what they'll be doing. And surgery is definitely something that is a frontier space, at least on the simple side, like on people like me. You know what I mean? Where if it doesn't go wrong, nobody's that upset. But it's not theoretical. It's real. So I want to give you some food for thought. Would you let a robot, if they said to you, look, this is going to take like a month, okay? Kraft is a very busy guy, all right? Or you can have my boy G1 here take your gallbladder out. Sergi, I'm sorry. G1 does other things. Sergi can take out your, like surgery. You know, they're not working on the names too fast. But he could take out your gallbladder. He could take out your appendix. You good with that? Because it could give you access to surgery right now and in a really affordable way. Would you do it? Well, it's just hypothetical. No, it isn't. Meet Sergey, clever name, much more clever in terms of his capabilities. See what he's squeezing there right now? That could be your appendix. He could expand healthcare access to 3 billion people worldwide, okay? Why? Because it's cheap, it's available, it's scalable, and they say it can do the job. It's still in its early stage, but robots and human beings are becoming really compatible really fast. And that is an amazing change that could change lives all over the globe. Dr. Dan Kraft, appreciate you for helping us understand and moving us ahead.
Thanks for having me.
Very good, very good. All right, let's take a break. When I come back, I want to bring in my friend, Bryan Johnson, to talk about what he has learned about how technology can help him with his own wellness and longevity. He's made himself his own test specimen, and he's had amazing results, and he's going to come in to tell us about it. And I want to thank Chapter, and I'm going to keep thanking him all night, and I'll tell you why. It's news business, and you can't tell these stories and you can't take this time if nobody wants to work with you. Thank you, Chapter, for helping people and for helping us tell the story. We're coming back. Now, it would be an interesting question for you to consider how long you want to live. Think about that, right? Because right now, what are we worried about? Well, our lifespan is a function of depletion, of reduction, of, when will it get cut short and how and what can we do? Very frightening, very frightening. What if you were to flip the paradigm because of advances in technology that allow you to see it sooner, do something about it sooner, and maybe fix it in a way that, to use Dr. Kraft's language, health span greatly increases along with lifespan. Bryan Johnson does not believe these are hypothetical questions, okay? He is a billionaire tech entrepreneur who is in the business of answering tough questions. And he says there are answers that he already knows and answers to come that will change wellness and longevity in ways that will change humanity. Project Blueprint is his documentation of this. It's his self-designed, multi-million-dollar effort to push back aging and ultimately find new ways to extend human life. Okay? He's done plasma transfusions from his own son, cloning his blood cells, light and oxygen therapies, a constant testing of everything. He's a big data guy. One mission: don't die. Bryan Johnson joins us right now. It's good to see you again, my friend.
Chris, great to see you.
So I have been spending all of this time and calories trying to scare people about the potential of AI, and you say, no way. The possibilities are limitless for positive expansion of our own health and wellness.
It unquestionably is. 5 years ago, I started on this quest with the basic question, are we the first generation who won't die? Now, that does not mean immortality. It means, will we begin extending our lifespans to 80, 85, 90, 100, 120, and 130? Then at some point we say, is it going to just keep on going? What do we do? This is really one of the coolest and most special moments in the history of being human, where we are at a different place, becoming a different thing as a species, and it's very exciting.
Well, I want to open it to Dr. Kraft and Madison to get their perspective on this with you. But for the rest of us, what do you think excites you most about what AI could do to help us in a way we don't see right now?
But so very practically, when you get a diagnosis for something that's wrong with your body, historically it was kind of like, well, good luck. We can give you some drugs that maybe soften the symptoms, but you're kind of on a downhill spiral and we can't really do much. Over the past year, that's changed, where there's been several examples where a gentleman was able to generate his own cure for his cancer. He basically became cancer-free. There was an engineer in Australia that shrunk his dog's tumor. So people are beginning to take the power that AI and biotech offers them to actually take action on their own disease. So it's not too unimaginable that in the future, everybody listening to this, we will all get diagnosed with disease. And instead of just being, sorry, we can actually look in the eye and say, I'm not going to take it. So it's really empowering for everybody. Now, the healthcare system will have to adapt. We'll have to move fast, but that's the new reality we're in, is we can feel empowered to address our own health needs.
Madison, what occurs to you on this?
Bryan, I know we haven't had the chance to meet and chat yet. I'd love to interview you, meet you in person, but it strikes me that Bryan is a billionaire and has poured a ton of his own money and resources into this. He's obviously very passionate about it. When I talk to a lot of everyday middle-class consumers about AI, one of their concerns is that the benefits are going to be privatized to folks like Bryan who can afford to get the best benefits out of AI technology, and not everyone is necessarily going to be able to do that. A lot of good could be occurring in the healthcare space with folks like Bryan investing in more public forms of healthcare transformation. And so I'm curious to see if that happens.
How do you bridge some to all?
You know, the thing that's interesting about this is in a person's pocket, you have access to a doctor that's better than the majority of doctors. There has never in the history of the human race been a better time to get better information about your body and disease. So it is absolutely a stunning level of accessibility for the average person.
And with time and investment, then you start to see costs come. But there's going to be inequalities early on. There always have been. The question is, what can you do to manage them, and will AI make it better or worse? We still don't know. Dr. Kraft, your take.
Well, a lot of it's about measurement. Bryan's done a great job of popularizing that. You get what you measure, and that's very individualized. It used to be we practice sort of general population medicine, the average patient. Now we can understand someone at their molecular and genetic level and start to hyper-personalize their prevention and wellness and their longevity plan, as well as hopefully align platforms like Medicare, the incentive. We don't practice evidence-based medicine, we practice reimbursement-based medicine. We can start to pay for these early measurements, whether it's a low-cost wearable or from a low-cost genome. That can start to shift the healthcare equation to extending health span for many more. And when we learn what these data points mean, when we put them together by crowdsourcing, kind of like when we drive with Google Maps and Waze, we're building a map of driving. We can start to build a global map of health and longevity and aging and disease and build better health journeys for everybody.
Dusty has a caller question, which I want to bring in, Bryan, and we'll see if you can help us with it. What do you got?
We have Steve from Massachusetts who has a question about AI and his physical exams.
Hello.
What is it?
Yeah, Chris, I wanted to know. Last time I went to the doctors, they recorded it for AI. I brought my cat to the veterinarian. They recorded that for AI with my authority. I'm just wondering, how soon is it before the robots are going to be doing the physical exams?
Well, they're going to try it out on the cats first before they do the dogs, just in case it doesn't go well. No, it's a good question. Go ahead, Dr. Kraft.
Well, AI's got huge potential to record our conversation and enable me as a physician not to have to type my notes at the computer. AI can start to do parts of our physical exam. The camera on your smartphone can pick up your vitals. But I still think we want to emphasize the human part of medicine. We can unleash the humanity. The doctor-patient relationship is so important. So physical exam, human touch can be a huge part integrated with AI. It soon may be malpractice not for your clinician to use an AI making a diagnostic or therapeutic decision. So how we marry those two together in both the physical exam and the virtual exam is important.
Hey, Bryan, let me ask you something, and you can tell me if it's the wrong question, but to Madison's point, have you learned anything in terms of your data collection, the cull and the aggregation, that there are metrics that people ignore that they actually should ask their doctors about? And is that a reducible thing?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I've become the most measured person in human history over the past 5 years. There's more data on my body than any human who's ever lived. But I'll tell you, the single biomarker that I value the most is my resting heart rate before bed. I'll look at my heart rate and see how many times it's beating per minute. It is the best indicator of how I'm going to sleep and of my overall health. And I find when I do simple things like when I eat 4 hours before bedtime, when I turn my screen off 30 to 60 minutes before bed, when I have my final caffeine, around noon, these really basic practices dramatically lower my heart rate. They improve my sleep, which then improves my willpower, allows me to eat better and exercise. So really simple, basic things have a dramatic ability to improve your health and wellness.
The frightening thing is, I don't do any of it. And that's why you look like you and I look like your grandfather. Bryan Johnson, thank you very much. I appreciate you joining us. Good luck going forward. Now we're going to take a break. When we come back, there is a wild and magical aspect to this, okay? We've always been, especially as Americans, fascinated by what lies beyond. right? Why did we turn our eyes to the stars? Because we knew the potential was there. Space travel, trips to the moon, okay? Not from a movie. I mean, like, as a not too distant future attraction at Disney World, okay? Legendary astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson joins us to talk to you about what is real right now and what is coming. Your questions and comments on what will blow our minds about tomorrow. But the future is now. Next.
You mentioned moon bases. By 2029, you want to have humans living on the moon for extended periods of time, right?
Well, I would say starting in 2027, we want to start building the base. In 2028, when the NASA astronauts get to the surface of the moon, there's going to be a buggy there, a lunar terrain vehicle. There's going to be the start of infrastructure. 2029, you're going to have more infrastructure. But I would say early 2030s, the moon is going to be like the International Space Station. You're going to have crews that are there on pretty extended periods of time as we learn in that environment and prepare for Mars.
That was NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman giving us a glimpse into the future. Now, it's one thing for astronauts to be up there, for it to be like a government thing, and they're going to be up there a little bit longer. Okay, but what is the curve of potential for the rest of us? There's only one guy I want to talk to about this. Astrophysicist, author of Take Me to Your Leader, Perspectives on Your First Alien Encounter, which is not only smart, it's funny. It's a good read. The legend, Neil deGrasse Tyson. It is good to have you. Thank you. So, as you said to me when we were talking on my podcast, that sci-fi isn't a thing anymore, that science and where we're headed with technology, AI, is taking us to and beyond where we were with fiction. So is what he's saying something that may be true beyond just NASA astronauts?
Well, we have to consider, why would a person do that? Because you can have capacity to do something, but not the money or interest to do so. So, for example, why did we go to the moon? Our memory of that is, well, we're explorers. It's in our DNA. We're Americans. And then you part the curtains, and we were scared witless that the Soviet Union was going to beat us there. And we were trying to show the world the path of freedom over the path of tyranny, godless communist, right? So after Sputnik launched, before we had a satellite, and Yuri Gagarin launched, before we had a spacecraft that wouldn't blow up, capable of carrying people, we reacted to that. And in so doing, we said, we're going to go to the moon. And within 11 years, we walking on the moon. Then we looked over our shoulder, were the Russians still, were they coming? No. End of the program. Apollo 18, which has flight-ready parts, is in captivity in Rocket City, Alabama. You can see it in a museum. It never flew because the program was canceled, the Apollo program. And meanwhile, while we were going to the moon, that 4-year span from 1968 to 1972, all these writers said, at this pace, we'll have colonies on Mars by 1985, because they were projecting a trend without understanding what was causing that trend, what the motivation was in the first place.
So what is the motivation now for them to be saying things like this and private industries wanting?
I'll tell you.
Good. That's
Good
why
question.
I got you here.
I haven't seen anybody discuss this, but it's really obvious to me. Because why didn't we stay on the moon in 1972, or go back in 1980, or 1990, or 2000, or 2010? All of a sudden, we have the Artemis program, and we're going back to the moon. And it feels good, and it's NASA, and then you part the curtains. When did that begin? When did we start talking about that? In the 20-teens. What happened in the 20-teens? China says they want to put taikonauts, their version of an astronaut, on the moon. We're reacting to that. That's some bad optics if they go to the moon and kick over our flag, or have a badass looking rover better than ours. We have a certain point of pride in that. So there's a geopolitical force operating. It's not simply, let's do it because it's the next thing to do. Because it was always the next thing to do, and we didn't do it. So now we've got a geopolitical force operating, not mentioned in that conversation that you just showed. And that'll keep us going. As long as China makes such declarations, we will continue.
So everything they do is through the state. Here it's different, but Madison, do you see, like when we hear about private companies thinking about moon travel, is there a business model out there for this? And is it AI that's pushing it?
Yeah, I mean, apparently people are willing to pay a ton of money for it, you know, and we just had SpaceX, now it's called SpaceX AI, having the largest IPO in history. Would love to talk to you, Neil, after an earnings call to do some fact checking on what Elon has to say about space travel, but he's certainly pitching to investors that that is something that's going to be profitable. I think he said the business's total addressable market was $49 trillion, which is like a third of the entire global economy.
Says the person who owns the company. Says this, yes.
And a large portion of the world's wealth, yes, exactly.
Yeah. Will private sector accelerate it?
So let's get back to private sector. Private sector has always been in bed with NASA, all right? So that's not a new thing. The difference was NASA, when we had the LEM built, for example, it said NASA on it, but that was designed and built in Bethpage, Long Island by Grumman Aerospace. The people today who still walk proud had an aunt, an uncle, a grandfather who worked on that project. So NASA didn't build everything that they flew. The private sector did, and that included Lockheed Martin and Boeing and all these other companies. So we've always been there. The difference is if the industry has a goal and they want to do something, they get to put their name on the rocket. And then if NASA says, you know, we don't have a rocket that can accomplish that, can we use one of yours? We're flying. So if Elon is going to have a rocket under a NASA payload, it's because NASA didn't have a rocket that could do that, and then they go and pay for it. So let's bring up Mars real quick. Mars, I don't think we're going there unless China says they want to put military bases on Mars. We'll be on Mars in 10 months, okay? 1 month to design, build, and fund the thing, and 9 months to get there. I'm exaggerating just a little bit there. So here's the thing. So NASA says we're going to go to Mars, and but we don't have a spaceship to do it. Elon says, I do. So then we ride Elon's rocket to Mars, but that's a different business model than he's been extolling, okay? That's taxpayers paying for that. Yes, he has enough money, plus Bezos, they can have a vanity project to go to Mars, send astronauts, but I don't see a sustained business case for that.
Do you see that the technological advances make this more attractive in some way?
We've always had, we have an SUV-sized rover on Mars right now that carried a helicopter, okay? So it's not like we don't know how to get to Mars. We totally know how to do that with technology. And AI will just make that faster and better and cheaper. So, yeah, but it's still really expensive to send people to such a destination. You know why? Because they want to come back alive. Okay? They kind of want to come back. And so, by the way, I'm not interested in fact-checking Elon's dreams. Dreams can and should be wherever your inspiration takes you. Whether they become realized, yes, that's a different issue to investors. However, I, as someone who values dreams, there's always, this happens always. When you have big dreams, other things spin off of it that you might not have seen coming that do benefit our lives and our health and our wealth and our security. So I'm cool with big dreamers.
We got an audience question. Robert?
Yeah, I'm here.
So that makes it a real town hall. You're going to the audience.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I had to.
Thank you. Hey, Robert.
My understanding.
I couldn't let him wear that jacket. Stand up. Let everybody see the jacket. Wow.
Oh.
AI can't do that, I'll tell you.
AI won't do that.
Oh, ouch, ouch.
Oh, that's not nice.
Nice tie, Neil.
Oh, that's what I like to hear. Go ahead.
So my understanding of early SETI is that we're pointing sensors and telescopes at marble blue planets that are like ours. Are we looking in the right places? Is that really the right place to find life?
Well, SETI is looking for intelligent life. So that's a different goal than just the simple search for life at all. And the search for life at all is conducted by NASA continually, especially with the likes of the latest measurements from the James Webb Space Telescope. It's got a really cool way to do it. It waits for an exoplanet, of which we have more than 6,000 in our catalogs today. Almost everyone in this room was born before we knew of any exoplanets. So it's a relatively recent activity of our scientists. And so what happens? The planet moves in front of the host star. You can't see the planet, it's too dim, it's too small. However, light from that host star moves through the atmosphere, comes out the other side, tagged by the chemistry of the atmosphere. And there's certain chemicals that are indicators of life thriving on the surface. We call them biomarkers. And so there's a huge cottage industry now looking in the atmospheres of exoplanets for life at all. Is it plankton in the ocean? Is there oxygen producing life? Because oxygen is unstable in the air. If you took away all plant life now, the oxygen level would drop to 0, because that's how chemically active that chemical is. So if you see oxygen in an atmosphere, something is keeping it going, all right? So that's a whole industry. Now, you want to talk to what we would call intelligent life. We're not... you don't know where the signal is going to come from. So you want to listen for everywhere.
My implication was, are they moving off the planets, and are we looking for AI life?
Oh, I mean, might they have sent AI to us, like robots, and that's what, possibly, because we've sent robots before AI was even a thing. We have sort of semi-intelligent robots out there, Voyager 1 and 2, Pioneer 10 and 11, this sort of thing. They left the solar system, even contain information about us, including our return address. Which seemed like a good idea at the time. It has distances and directions to pulsars in the galaxy that you can triangulate on that spider map and get right back to where we are. Except the illustration of our solar system includes 9 planets. And so if the aliens come to our sector and see our solar system, which only has 8 planets, they'll say, oh, that can't be what we're here. So let's go destroy some other soul. So in the end, Pluto might be the savior of all of humanity. For that
so let's do this. Let's take a break. Neil, please stay. And let's talk about the feasibility of why you would want to work towards putting a full city on the moon. I've got a guest who's working on exactly that. He'll explain why it's something that we need to be doing, and it is his passion. That is next. The future is now. NewsNation Town Hall, the future is now. I have Madison Mills from Axios. I have Dr. Kraft with me. I have Professor Neil deGrasse Tyson and someone else who believes that we should have a sustainable city on the moon, and his name is Jim Caravala. He's the CEO of Stellar World, which is helping to build the infrastructure for a permanent city on the moon. It is very nice of you to join us. Why do you believe this has to happen now?
Well, thank you, Andrew. It's great to see all of you here. This is, I think, the most important thing that we can do as a civilization right now. We are an 8.2 billion person population on planet Earth. We have a massively growing economy, doing fantastic things with technology, creating wealth, creating opportunity. But the distribution of that wealth and opportunity and prosperity is getting ever more asymmetric as our economy gets ever larger. What we need to do is switch from an economy of scarcity and resource distribution to one of real abundance. That real abundance is out there in the solar system. And this is our moment as a civilization to make that leap. And that leap to go from an Earth-based culture to a solar system-based culture, starting with the moon, is merely a $100 to $200 billion infrastructure leap to get to civil engineering code 1.0 on the moon. When we do that, we have the opportunity to build, grow, and build cities.
So it would seem that there have to be very basic scientific questions that possess challenges here. And if I were going to ask about that, I would ask this. Neil, what would you ask?
No, so the history of great expensive projects, when you look at what motivated them, I did a study on this. There's only 3 motivators. One of them is, are you doing something in the service of your gods or of your royalty? And that's how you got the pyramids, for example. Are you doing something in the service of war or defense? And that's how you got the Great Wall of China, for example, or the Manhattan Project. Or are you doing something with the promise of economic return? That's exactly what this gentleman is describing. The day we turn the solar system into our backyard, that grants us access to resources that will forever end the existence of any future war on Earth that is over the limited access to resources. Because in space, you have basically unlimited energy. Do you know there are asteroids out there that have more gold in them than have ever been mined in the history of the Earth? So it's not just the moon. Moon is a nice broad area to go to, but if you want to mine some asteroids. You don't even need people to do that. Send up some robots. You know, we know how to mine. We've been doing that on Earth for, 500 years, or longer. So yes. And so it's not about science here. It's an engineering challenge, but it's well within the capacity of any modern engineer to accomplish.
So you go to the moon because
we agree. Get a fist bump right here.
I'm on it, brother.
That was a beautiful moment. So, Jim, so you go to the moon because it's closest. Does it matter that it's just like a big dead rock?
So actually, that's a feature, not a bug, because what we can do on the lunar surface is have a kickstart. I mean, there are some folks who talk about going to Mars and building a city on Mars. That is generations away or a generation away from doing that well, if we can. The moon is within an economic throw right now, within 5 to 10 to 15 years. The amount of resources that are there is significant. We have the biggest nuclear reactor in the center of our solar system that can give us thousands of years of easy energy.
It's the sun he was referring to.
Thank you.
Yeah, just okay.
Thank you, brother.
Okay, that was code for the sun.
Yeah. We have 1 million times more resources in the asteroid belt than we have accessible on the moon. We have 1 million times more resources in the Kuiper belt and the Oort cloud that are accessible on the inner asteroid belt. We have thousands of years for hundreds of billions of people to thrive and prosper into the solar system, for us to build the systems to build interstellar shipyards at the asteroid belt and go interstellar within a few hundred years. This is the future that our young generation need to know is possible right now, with all the risks that we have existentially on planet Earth, with nuclear, with environment, with economic and resource distribution and polarization. The younger generation and their children towards the end of this century are looking at us right now. What decisions do we make? What agency do we employ? And what do we do to get to that bridge to the moon within the next 10 years so that we open up the entire solar system? And it's not about, just finally, it's not just about, well, look at the last 60 years and look at how we've done things. This is the moment, these months are the moment where we take that destiny and we make the decision to go and do this.
I got to offer a reality check.
Please.
If I may. So I don't see anybody going to live on the moon or Mars permanently. You realize Antarctica is wetter and balmier than any place on the surface of Mars, but nobody's lined up to build condos on Antarctica. Let's be realistic about this.
Yeah, but people live in Las Vegas.
Hang on. And people analogize trips to Mars like, well, Columbus voyaged across the ocean. And you realize when Columbus landed on the other side of the ocean and got off his ship, he could breathe the air, okay? And if there was damage to his ship, the trees in the New World were also made of wood, okay? So to analogize that future to a past, not that you did that, but many do, it does not comport. All I'm saying is I can definitely see vacation spots. I would save up a few years worth of vacation money to go visit the moon. You get there in 3 days, spend a couple of days there, you come back. that all happens, and you'll go on you're away for vacation that much time anyway. And so put up a hotel, there'd be workers that cycle back and forth. I don't have a problem with that. And you have mining operations around back. Go for it. So here's the problem, though. If you can have hotels and restaurants and things, the restaurant would have kind of odd food, maybe, but they'd have no atmosphere. That's an old job. That's an old dad joke.
Man, oh,
sorry.
Man, oh man.
Sorry.
That was an AI level joke. So look, here's my philosophical problem with it, and you guys weigh in as you see, Jim, is that we have so much need right here. I totally understand what you're saying about the challenges we have and limitations. I would argue that many of those are human. That it's us doing it, and you're just going to export that problem to the moon if you bring us there. But that there's so much need here. How do you balance that demand and that need for the investment, for the technology, for the entrepreneurship, and justifying doing something so extravagant somewhere else?
In 1990, we had a $22 trillion global economy. This year, it's set to be about 125 trillion. With inflation, that's a 5x increase. Without, maybe a 3x increase. Amazing increase in global prosperity. Yet today, we still have 250 million people living below starvation level. We have freshwater disease, security, lack of prosperity, lack of access to mobility and education throughout the world. So the problems that we have now, we're doing great. We're feeding 8.2 billion people, more or less, but that distribution of success, as well as it is on the whole, the distribution is completely poor. We've got so much more to do. And the reason is because there's no market in a lot of these places. We are a capitalist economy globally, and we only will look out for people when the market forces justify. That's the reality of it. The framing is an economy of scarcity. If we can get out, we can leap over the barrier, and the moon is a proxy. It's the first stepping stone. But if we can get to the moon, prove we can live, work, operate out there, build industrial infrastructure and systems, we can create terawatts of power, we can create trillions to quadrillions of dollars of economic growth over the next 100 to 200 years. But the directionality has to be set now. Because the challenges are, to the points that we've been discussing, to what we see going around the world today, the pressure is building up. Our geopolitical pressures are building up. The races to control existential technologies are building up. And as the economy grows in a scarcity framework, the real challenge is the wealth creation that is generated increases markedly, but goes to fewer and fewer stakeholders, and wider mass population get more and more depravity.
That I get. You just have to look at my Twitter feed, and you'll see how much pressure is building on a
I gotta add something quick there.
Go ahead.
So your argument, I'd like and welcome that reply, but consider, let's go back 30,000 years and we're all in a cave, right? And there's some youngins who peek out the cave and they see like mountains and valleys and trees with fruit on it. They don't have a word for fruit because no one's left the cave yet. And they decide they want to exit the cave, but have to check with the elders. So they go to the 30-year-olds, because those are the elders back then, and they say, we want to explore outside the cave. And they say, well, we have to caucus. So the elders caucus, and then they come back and say, no, we can't let you explore outside of the cave because we have cave problems we have to solve first. That's what you sound like. When you say, yes, no, the elder caveman, okay? Because you're saying we have problems here on Earth, why would we go into space with lofty dreams?
Ouch.
Earth is this little speck in the middle. That's what Earth is. We're surrounded by resources. And by the way, yes, a $250 million, $500 million out of the 8.2 billion living below poverty levels is tragic. But that's a lower percentage than it's ever been in the history of the world. And a lot of that growth has come from the role of technology in the distribution and the democratization of technology. Do you remember in 1987, what's that movie? Wall Street with Gecko? Remember, he was walking on the beach of the Hamptons, and he had a shoulder-mounted cell phone. Do you remember that? And I remember thinking, wow, I wish I was rich so I can have a phone like that. And you look at that and you say, I'm so glad I don't have a phone like that. That industry only became big when everyone could have a cell phone. So there's some marketplaces that require everyone's access for them to thrive. And cell phones was among them. Not yachts, that's a different industry. But think about it. When it becomes a commodity that everybody can afford, that's when those industries thrive.
I like it, but I haven't changed my position. I will say this, though.
See, you're the elder in the cave.
Yeah, I am. I am a caveman on many levels. Look at this right here. The applications of this are marvelous. So, and by the literal definition of the word, we're talking about going to space and what that means and living on the moon as an expansion. And then the next block, the way we set up the show is, but right back here on Earth, we're going to see the most immediate effects. Robocop, do you remember that movie?
Oh, yeah.
You know, Neil's taking us back. In the 80s, I thought that was the dumbest thing I'd ever seen in my life. This will never happen. The guy's like half human, half robot. It's real. It is happening now, and it is absolutely the future of policing. I'll explain right after this.
Drop the gun. You are under arrest. Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.
I remember that like it was yesterday. Also thinking, never. This is way too out there. Totally wrong, okay? Robots, automation, AI, future of policing, and the future is now. How do I know? Because I learned it from the man you were about to meet right now, okay? Because we're gonna live a different reality. And will it be better or worse? Let's discuss. Former Beverly Hills Police Chief, counterterror expert, Mr. Mark Stainbrook. Mark, it's good to have you. Thank you for what you did for your community. Thank you for
having me. Thank you for having me.
So, one, how real and what are we talking about?
Well, it's very real. So in Beverly Hills, we created what we call the first real-time watch center. So the use of drones, the use of automated license plate readers or ALPRs and surveillance cameras all going into a command center that was operated 24/7. So what you essentially had was a focus on the criminals that were coming into Beverly Hills and not the general public. And what I mean by that is a car comes in, it's stolen, it's wanted for a crime, it hits an ALPR. We built basically a virtual moat around the city. Comes in, drones automatically launch, start tracking the car with our camera operators, vector the officers in, and take down really dangerous criminal suspects, murderers, armed robbery suspects, home invasion suspects, keeping the officers safe, the community safe, and actually even the suspects safe, because officers are given the capability through technology to make better judgments, better decisions, and see what's going on before they ever get to the scene of a crime.
Sounds like we need an update on Beverly Hills Cop, the movie.
Yeah, I know, right?
Based on all this new technology.
What's Eddie Murphy doing? You know, he's like walking around fighting with a drone. What is the tension between when it comes to surveillance? How do you balance what you can do with what you're allowed to do with what you should do?
That is that absolute right question, and that's what I think everyone's concern is, even mine as a private citizen, especially now, 4 weeks out from the job, I'm concerned about being surveilled by the government. I think it starts with community. You have to educate the community as to what technology you're using, why you're using it, how it keeps them safe, and also reduces liability to the city. Because you can imagine every time an officer uses force, like Robocop, there's a liability that goes along with that to the city. So that even if crime stats are down, but you lose the faith of the public and the community, you've lost the war. So it's really about educating and partnering with the community like we did in Beverly Hills and having them understand how the technology is being used. I think that goes a lot toward having good training, good policies, which, by the way, we're building it as we're flying the plane because all this is so new. And then oversight and audits, and then holding people accountable if they use the technology in an inappropriate manner. And that's very, very important.
The scary thing is you have the technological and the surveillance aspect, but Madison, something that you'll see in the area of investment and who wants to put money into this is that you get this tension of creating robots like in the movie that can do things that we can't. And then the question becomes of discretion. But people are getting into the space, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, Chris, there's a lot of discrepancy and debate right now, especially in Washington, about who is going to make those key decisions. Anthropic, the company behind Claude, a chatbot you all might have used, is continuing to be in a heated debate with the Trump administration about whether or not the Department of War can use its AI tools in mass surveillance or in the use of autonomous weapons. Anthropic ended up being the only major AI company to say it did not want the US government to be able to do that. Other AI companies like OpenAI and Google ended up signing deals with the Pentagon. So that's a much more macro level of the surveillance that you're talking about, but part of the challenge here in figuring out what this looks like.
Yeah, that's going to be, there'll be an ethical dilemma, there'll be a legal dilemma, they'll have to deal with that. But that area of technology, about what we can do, I really believe that the place we're going to see it first, not just because of doing the research, but just watching in the marketplace, is in transportation. Is that we're going to see robotics taking over in transportation in huge ways. Like flying cars, when we watched the Jetsons growing up, and they had their little putt-putt space saucers going around, it was always so humorous. And now they are here. And I don't mean as a one-off. I mean like there are flying cars, and they have them in different styles and different ways, and the price point's coming down all the time. And I know this because there's a guy who's coming in right now named Jim Duchovny, and he is the CEO of Aleph. He developed the first ever street-legal flying car, and it is here right now. Jim, what was the big crossover that you had to do to get this vehicle where it was scalable and ready for the consumer market?
Hey, Chris. We actually started, we didn't start from the car, we didn't start with the airplane, we started from scratch. We actually started from safety because the main concern is safety here. So my co-founders, Ole, Konstantin, and Paul, and myself sit down, we started from safety. And then we started building what is considered to be the flying car. There are different definitions of flying car. The traditional definition is the traditional car which can drive in a vertical takeoff, where Aleph is the only one. You showed several cars there. There are cars which require airport. They're what is called eVTOL, electrical vertical takeoff and landing, air taxis, flying taxis. So there are different kind of what people call flying cars now. But the traditional driving and vertical takeoff, that's what we actually designed for Aleph.
Is the problem, Jim, the technology of the vehicle or figuring out how to negotiate the airspace and traffic?
So think about it like this. We also, from scratch, we designed it like this. When it's on the ground, it's the same as Toyota, Tesla, Ford, or any other car. Where it's in the air, at least our car fits into the existing FAA regulations, into existing FAA traffic. Once there's going to be a million flying cars, obviously FAA will react. But as of now, it's just another aircraft of the specific classification.
Amazing. Jim Duchovny, good luck with it. I can't wait for my kid to ask me for one. The answer will be no, because he can't drive what's on the ground. But it goes to the reality that it's already here. And these things are going to be everywhere. Life is going to change. It will never be the same. Will it be better or worse? Both. When we come back, you're going to meet that robot that's angling for my job. Next. Okay. I hope you've enjoyed the town hall. I know I have. I'm excited by things. You can't be afraid because it's going to change anyway, so you might as well understand it as best you can. That's why I want to bring in George Ekus. Now, George, tell people about your company and what it does and why you believe so strongly in the future of robotics.
Thanks for having me on, Chris. We are ToberLife. We are a humanoid and quadruped company in Northern California. We sell quadrupeds and humanoid robots across North America, and we are building a data collection and teleoperation system that allows people to more easily train their robots to do useful things.
So, it is not about the robot coming after you. It's doing the things that you don't want to do at home. Bring out your boy here. Wrong way. All right, here he comes. Hey, how you doing, bud? Come on over. G1. He walks like somebody I used to date, by the way. How are you doing? So this is G1. Tell us, like, how you doing, everybody? Everybody say hello. Don't be rude. Say hello to the guy from... Everybody's welcome. You're among friends. What can he do?
Right now, G1 is actually a research and development-oriented robot. This is the most popular robot for people building robot control systems in the world. It's made by Unitree, which is a company in China, actually. And this...
Was he trying to sit on my lap?
Apparently.
Okay. Not so fast, buddy.
But G1's actually the most prominent robot in the research community right now. And you actually saw earlier on this program those surgery robots. Those are Unitree G1s. So they are made in China, but they are enabling a diverse array of researchers and developers to make new and novel and valuable control systems with robots.
You know, George was telling me earlier that the fear is irrational in terms of robots. They will do what you tell them to do, not what they desire to do, which is a fundamental difference.
I would liken it to a self-driving car, where your self-driving car, you plug in the destination and it takes you there. Just like with this robot, if you want your dishes done, you want your laundry folded, the long horizon version of this is that you tell it what you need and it will do it for you.
So don't go anywhere, because I want you to do something for me at the end of the segment, but I want to spend a couple of minutes on another adaptation to AI that everybody's talking about, which is in entertainment. And Brother Sachi, you've been waiting for me for a while to have this conversation. And I want to bring him in, the CEO and co-founder of Fable Studio, okay? Leading developer of AI-powered content creation, Edward Sachi. Now, Ed, you say AI is going to make things better even in that space. It's not going to take the human out of it. Why and how?
Yeah, so we have a new movie coming out Friday, October 30th. It'll be the first entirely AI movie where you'll be able to go to your multiplex, Diet Coke, popcorn, watch a movie where everything that you're seeing is AI, but it's made by a team of humans, director, writer, Foley artist, editor, voice actors. And it allows people to make a sci-fi movie. This is an indie sci-fi, a little bit like George Lucas's first film, THX 1138, that actually gets to connect with audiences and look like a $200 million movie, but be made on an indie budget.
So there's an adaptability to it where you can put yourself into it.
Yeah, that we've got a generation now where indie filmmakers, you know, maybe this generation's Coppola, Scorsese, Lucas, can come up and make something for a tiny budget. And that's today, but I think the more spooky thing is that, you know, in my industry, there's a race between the teams who are trying to win an Oscar for a film made with AI special effects, AI explosions, versus the teams who are trying to win an Oscar for a film made by AI. So the future, I think we're going to see these AIs, they're observing us, they're talking to us, they're observing our society, and we're going to start to see movies made entirely by something like this, by AI.
I look forward to it. Ed Sachi, good luck with everything you do. George, all the best in what you can develop, and look what he can do. I wanted him to dance us off because there's nothing more human than the ability to move, and I can do all of these moves. And he plays his own music. It doesn't get better than that. What better way to end this show? The future is now at NewsNation Town Hall. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for the intelligence and the opportunity. Katie Pavlich, right after a quick break. Enjoy the...